Joining us now on the MegaCast, again via Zoom, is our good friend Tim Farris. He is the Group Director President of Upstream Investment Partners, and he joins us via Zoom. Hey, Tim, how you doing today? Oh, I got to hit a button here. Okay. Forgive me. Tim cannot hear us. Can you hear us now, Tim?
Yes, I can.
All right. Sorry about that. So, welcome
No
welcome to
problem.
the MegaCast. How you feeling today? Everything going okay?
I'm feeling good. Thanks for having me back on. It's a great Friday today. Appreciate it.
It is great to have you here. So I'm just going to read. I mean, we normally don't do this. Is an informal show. I mean, this is just a little community, radio show. I'm just going to read what the notes our producer gave me. Said Tim wants to speak about a great consolidated summary of the CARES Act that he saw and how it impacts 401k's and IRAs. So there you go. There's the setup right from
Yes.
the producer, Tim.
Okay, here we go. Okay. So, in the current events that we went through back in March 20th, they released the CARES Act. What we saw with the CARES Act was kind of the first phase, which was the PPP and a lot of the other access to dollars that people had available. On a side note, I'm going to just mention the PPP. I know that a lot of funds became available this week. I've talked to a lot of frustrated folks, but understand that the process is a lot more equitable this time around, and the dollars will come out to us a little bit slower, but they will come out much more equitable.
Hey Tim, can I just
And
jump? Tim, can I jump in on that real
yes,
quick? The
yep.
report I saw in Cranes today echoes what
Hmm.
I'm hearing from a lot of people, in that the community banks are really doing a bang up job right now,
You got it.
and if you want to cut the red tape and slam through the bureaucracy, and this is no criticism of the bigger banks, that I do banking with one of them, but I just want to give a big pat on the back to the community banks. They're really making it work for a lot of folks, and I wonder if you're hearing the same thing.
Absolutely. Yes, and this is one of the things that I wanted to bring up is that it's not against the law to apply it as many banks as you can. It's just you can't take loans from everybody. So I've had a lot of people that I've worked with. I've worked closely with my tax advisor here locally in West Bloomfield, and he's had a lot of clients that had questions. And the challenge is that okay, everybody worked with the major banks, and they're one of a gazillion that have applied, and they're just waiting for feedback. And what we found through this though is lists of the local banks that you didn't have to be a client with, and we started applying across the board. I mean, as far away as is in Idaho, there are banks that will accommodate you. So take advantage of the smaller banks first and foremost if you haven't applied already. Secondly, that's where I wanted to talk about today, and this kind of got um, overshadowed by the PPP program, but it is part of the CARES Act. And what the CARES Act is doing is trying to create some liquidity for people that are kind of caught in the jam. It's either A, you've had the virus, or B, you've been at home for now, gosh, going on 6-7 weeks without being able to necessarily collect a paycheck. And our challenge has been is how do those folks access money when we've had all these other challenges, as well as the funds have been rolling out, whether it be through the unemployment or whether it be through the PPP program. With the CARES Act, they really kind of addressed financially our retirement accounts and our health savings accounts. And the first part I'm going to go over is with our retirement accounts. All qualified plans have the ability to roll $100,000 out of those programs this year. And it will not be subject to a 10% penalty, which is the normal penalty for premature distributions. The second advantage to this program is the funds can either A, be paid back into your retirement accounts over a 3-year period of time, or you can pay the taxes over that 3-year period of time. Your prerogative. Um, that is a real great flexibility. And this is the first time in many cases, like if somebody has a 401k, their ability to roll dollars out of their 401k is pretty limited to basically a hardship withdrawal. And with this program, they're going to be in a position to make a withdrawal out of that for the CARES Act.
So
The
let's
second
let's
portion
talk.
of this
Hang
is
on,
also that
hang on.
folks
Just
that have access to
oh,
a 401k many times will have the ability to take a loan. And these loans are to be paid back over a 5-year period of time. And those loans have been increased to $100,000 or 100% of your 401k, whatever the dollar value is. That's pretty dramatic for folks to be able to move money out of their 401k like that. And then finally, the other aspect here is with regard to retirees or people that are now 72 with the RMDs, required minimum distributions. The government requires us to take a minimum amount out of our retirement accounts on an annual basis. The age was pushed back to 72 as opposed to 70 and a half in the past. And what they've done for 2020, if they have deferred the requirement to take the money out of your IRA.
All right, Tim.
So that it.
No, you're doing fine. I actually committed a Zoom faux pas here, which everyone watching knows because we've all been Zooming. You ever start Zooming and your microphone is turned off on Zoom and you're just talking and you just think everyone's hearing you? No one's here. Okay. So,
yeah.
I did that a minute ago. You didn't hear me. So let me rewind the tape here just a little bit.
Sure.
So we get into one of these things where you can, but should you? And that's kind of the question I want to ask. So this is amazing. Go in, you can pull your retirement dollars out early, and it isn't going to cost you a single penny. So you can, but Tim, should you, and when?
Okay, so we've got to look at our dollars in a couple different ways, and really the best way to look at it is a pair of pants. Our back pockets are our long-term dollars, and our front pockets are our short-term dollars. So depending on where we have our dollars apportioned will really dictate where we want to draw our money. What we're talking about today, though, is really moving money from right pocket to left pocket, back pocket to front pocket. Ideally, you don't want to recommend folks to take money out of an IRA because that's going to break the stride of your retirement plan. But in extreme situations like a pandemic, you can kind of get a pass. The second aspect, too, is there's a very advantageous way to pay the money back. If you think about it, we're able to take dollars and we'll take dollars out of our IRA and we'll say that, okay, so we've seen the market come back dramatically. It's still down. We assume that the market recovers over the next 12 months, 2 years, whatever the case is. The ability to move your money out of your IRA and just simply, we'll say, leave it in the same investment, wait 3 years, give it back. You've got that growth at a more attractive tax rate. So a couple of different strategies, and it gets kind of complicated, and I don't want to really get into the weeds, but at a high level, this is something that you need to discuss with both your financial advisor and your tax advisor.
Yeah, but that was kind of that's what I was thinking, and that's why I asked that, is that there may be, Tim Farris, there may be a financial benefit to pulling some of that money out, given what's going on. I mean, if you're a little bullish on the market, or your financial advisor is, and they think your 401k may be deteriorating over the next 6 months or a couple of years, maybe you pull some of this money out, put it in some other investment. At least you have the flexibility. If you don't need the cash, we never have the flexibility to pull money out of our IRA and do something, take some alternative strategy. So be careful.
Absolutely.
Right? But there's some options, right? Yeah.
And then the second thing that you have to kind of keep in the back of your mind as a consideration, similar to the questions you were asking with our last guest, the country as a whole and our government system is putting a lot of money into the economy. And the question is, with the decline in the tax basis, how are we going to pay for it? So you have to ask yourself, over the next couple of years, are taxes going to be more or less? And that pretty much answers what the strategy kind of plays into.
Yeah, it does. Tim Farris, Group Director, President, Upstream Investment Partners. Tim, I don't know if this is in your area of expertise, but we are hearing from a lot of folks that are having trouble collecting their unemployment benefits from the state of Michigan, and other areas along it. Some people didn't really get their checks electronically deposited. I saw some information recently that some of that those paper checks are going to be starting to make their way in the mail. But do you have any thoughts, any information, advice for people that are in any of those situations?
Yes, it's got to be incredibly frustrating, especially with the unemployment system. How I compare is back when I was in. You've got a lot of folks that are out there trying to get those dollars all at the same time. The system's crashed on multiple occasions. Patience is a virtue with regard to getting through with the unemployment department, because that is the biggest challenge, because the infrastructure wasn't there for us. The second aspect with regard to our checks, for the folks that are struggling to get their checks, and I'm one of them, in many cases, it's if you normally have to send the IRS a few bucks at the end of the year, you don't have it set up on an automatic deposit. And in those cases, those are the folks that are getting their checks over time. If you go to the irs.gov site, you can plug in your bank information and the funds will be expedited that way. So there are ways for you to remedy or try to expedite your dollars, and that's simply going to irs.gov, and that will kind of feed you into the system to be able to kind of update and get a better expectation of your check. The unemployment system, what we have seen here is a slowdown. We're not seeing quite as many people filing for unemployment this week versus prior weeks. So as that kind of crests and starts to slow down, you'll start to see people get back in the system and understand that with the unemployment system, it's the date that you filed your unemployment. So the dollars that you're missing by waiting and not getting your funds will come back to you. It's just going to take a little time. And if I could touch on one thing real quick with regard to HSA, that is the other aspect that the CARES Act covered. Health savings accounts are another form of savings that we can use for our health benefits. Primarily anything other than our premiums. What's been expanded, though, is many things in particular when it comes to over-the-counter items are now covered by HSAs or FSAs. In particular, women's menstruation products, I guess you'd say. That's one aspect. And the second piece of information that comes along with the HSA accounts that was really kind of meaningful that we have seen is that with the HSA accounts now going forward, you're going to be able to use telemedicine, which is a very, very big deal, because with the CARES Act, they were able to cover telemedicine, whereas in the past you had to pay a deductible yourself. Now the deductible is not being required to pay for telemedicine, which in the big picture is great.
Tim, I'm glad I had a couple of cups of coffee before I came in here today, because it's hard to keep all the HSAs, RMDs, 401k's. You got so many initials you're throwing out here. I'm surprised you didn't put a WBLD and a WBFH in there. But no, we get it. So thank you. And, you just need help. It's a good time. There are a lot of programs out there, and I stay up all night reading this stuff. Not everybody has time. There are a lot of programs. Good time to have somebody to pick up the phone and call and get some advice on your retirement, on your health savings account, on any of these other programs. And Tim, you're a good source of that information. You want to share your data so people can get a hold of you, and then just a quick thought on also, and then we got to go on. Whether people should be talking to an investment advisor right now if they've not done so in the past.
Absolutely. Okay, so what I'm doing personally is if you go on Facebook, Tim Farris at Upstream Investments, I'm offering folks a 15, 20-minute Zoom conversation. And what I found with the experience is just within 15, 20 minutes, we can find opportunities that either A, they haven't taken advantage of, or B, that perhaps that they really need to look a little bit deeper into. That's a real quick way that people can get some questions answered. And right now, usually April is a time where people do take financial situations much more seriously because of our taxes, and that's been deferred till July. But I tell people now to take advantage of it, either talk to your tax advisor, which many people have as a result of the PPP program and whatnot, as well as talking to your financial advisor, because when we see a market decline as we have, it's important to kind of take a look at your investments and see how you've aligned with regard to both risk and opportunity. The economy that we're going to enter into is not the same economy that we left as a result of COVID.
Tim, do you have to be a 6-figure or 7-figure person to have a financial advisor, or if you're, just...
Absolutely not.
All right.
Absolutely
all right, good
not.
to know. Tim Farris, Group Director, President, Upstream Investment Partners. Tim, we got to scoot. Again, people can find you at Tim Farris Upstream on Facebook, and they punch that in or Google, and they're going to find you.
You got
right?
it.
All
Yep.
right.
And here on Orchard Lake Road.
All right. Thank you, my friend. Good to talk to you. He is
Absolutely. Thanks, Dave.
He is Tim Farris, and has had some great advice for us. And believe me, he's been living this whole coronavirus thing directly in his household, Tyler. So he's been a really great person to have with us here on the program.